How's it going, everybody? Jackson Fuller here alongside Owen Hassell to discuss some high school basketball playoff scenarios. Owen, we got the news last week that the Laney and Pender boys basketball teams would be ineligible for the state playoffs based on an on-court altercation, if you will. I don't necessarily want to call it a fight because people have told me that really no punches were thrown. It was more of a scuffle than a fight. But kids left the bench. There were a total of 10 suspensions ejections between the two teams, and they both will be ineligible for the NCHSAA playoffs. So we're going to talk about what that kind of means for the rest of the MEC. And we got some news today from the NCHSAA. We did some research, tried to figure out what it all meant, and we got some really interesting news that really the biggest team it's going to impact is Hoggard, Owen. And the bottom line of it all is Laney is still going to get seeded as like a #1 team in the NCHSAA, and then they'll be removed. So Hoggard won't move up to that 1 seed line. They're going to be seeded as a 2 seed, even if they finish in second place. Of course, they could always still take the #1 seed from Laney by winning the MEC. But if we look at the standings, how they are right now, Hoggard would not be a 1 seed, even though Laney's ineligible for the playoffs. They would be a 2 seed.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how Laney and Pender go forward. I know Pender obviously part of it as well, but a different conference. Laney being in the Mid-Eastern, of course. How does Coach Eric Davis rally the troops? I don't know if I even want to call it rallying the troops to say, we can still win this conference. And that still matters because I've been calling it the winner of Laney. Because of wrestling team winning a conference championship. The girls basketball team looks like it's well on its way. The fight Sanaya Rivers is we might say every so often, to a conference title. And the boys were looking in good position and are still in good position. But to put that in the past, it's what happened. You have to move on. I'm sure Coach Eric Davis is preaching that to the guys that play some spoiler.
Yeah.
Make sure that maybe you don't like Hoggard too much because your rivals, all in good fun, of course. Take care of business and beat Hoggard again and make sure you win a conference championship. Can't take that away from you. So that will be the next point of emphasis for them.
Absolutely. And, the biggest motivation for Laney is going to be winning the conference championship, something that they haven't done in boys basketball since 2000. I mean, 19 years is a long time for a big, powerful 4A school to not win a conference championship in basketball. You all know about the history, that one guy that used to play at Laney High School. So, you would think that maybe they'd have some more success, but they just haven't had that success in recent years. And if they keep winning, I think they're on an 8-game win streak right now. They're going to win their first conference title in a while. And that would really set up for, a tough road for Hoggard. And the 4A playoffs are always a tough road, but not getting a home game when you're, the top team from your conference in the playoffs, even though you didn't win, would be, a very difficult road for the Vikings. But they still got all sorts of aspirations in front of them because, they played Laney already this year and they lost by 2 points in a really tight game in Bucktown. And the rematch is going to be at Hoggard. And if Hoggard wins that game, right now they're tied in the conference standings. That would put them a game ahead of the Buccaneers. And, of course, there's so much basketball left to be played. But you got to think if Hoggard or Laney can finish with 1 or 2 losses, they're going to obviously win the conference championship. And then on the Pender side in the Coastal 8, I wrote about this in a story that's coming out in print tomorrow, but online today. But there's a chance that no Coastal 8 team is represented in the 1A playoffs because East Carteret and Lejeune have had such poor seasons. Pender will get that 1 seed, and then they'll be eliminated based on being ineligible. And so the other 2 teams, East Carteret and Lejeune, would have to qualify as wild cards, and that's looking like a steep climb for right now.
Is that so steep, though, with the 1A playoffs? I haven't looked at a lot of the projections in 1A schools. You've got, again, that 20, 30, 30, 20 mentality from the state where maybe that's not out of the question.
It's not. They're both well under 500. I think they're combined about 8 or 10 games below 500. So, but like you said, the 1A playoffs, a lot of times you see some teams that we might not think deserve to get in, but they do get in just based on how
there's nobody else.
Right, there's no one else to choose from.
Simple to say.
We'll see. Really looking forward to Nick Stevens, highschoolovertime.com, his projections. I think he said they're going to be coming out either this week or next week. He helped us kind of get a little information on this, the whole process of that. So, well, it'll be interesting to look at his projections and see if he does have East Carteret in the field, who right now is second to last place in the Coastal 8, but the second best 1A team. So, otherwise, Owen, a couple other storylines we just really briefly want to touch on. Laney girls basketball. How far do you think they can go?
Well, last year, of course, making the East Regional Final, losing to Southeast Raleigh. Yes, we all know about Sanaya Rivers. I think every college coach in the country knows about Sanaya Rivers and her ability, and just a sophomore. It's like, how far can she take this team? I know this team can make at least 3 rounds of the playoffs. I think at least 4 rounds. That 4th round, though, is when you typically get, and you should, that deep in the postseason, some really good coaching, some players that might not be at Sanaya Rivers' level, but you have 5 players on the court, not just 1. And it might be a case where we'll let her get hers, and we will make sure everyone else is shut down and see what can happen. There's no Lexi Melvilles or other players to help shoulder some of that yet. I've seen where other players have been able to step up and make contributions. Can they do that in the postseason? I think that's as important as anything else, because Sanaya Rivers will bring her best game. I say 4th round.
Yeah, I guess I'll agree with you, but I will say, the supporting cast this year isn't as talented offensively as it was last year with Lexi and Jetson Edwards. The supporting cast this year, I think, is better defensively with girls, like Taylor Chisholm, who's an incredible freshman defender. Reagan Stewart's playing really well, and Jennifer Jacobs has stepped in as a leadership role. And Sanaya is better. She's better than she was as a freshman, which is just that natural progression of one of the nation's best, college basketball prospects getting better with every year. So, is she better enough to lift them above where they made it last year? I think that's going to be really tough, because they had a very experienced roster last year behind Sanaya. But hey, the sky's the limit for this team in the years to come, with players like Taylor and Reagan, freshman and sophomore, going to be supporting Sanaya over the next 2 years. They've got a very young core that could dominate the MEC for the next couple of years. And then finally, the 3A part of the MEC conference, it's a little confusing, a little, everybody's kind of clogged together right now. West Brunswick and New Hanover are tied 4-3 in the league. South Brunswick right behind them at 3-4, and Topsail's, 2-5, not a great record, but just 2 games out, and they've been competitive in the MEC. So one of those teams is going to get a top seed in the 3A playoffs, which is, that's just how the split classifications will have this effect. So do you think any of those teams can make a run if they do get a top seed in a couple home games, or is this a scenario where they're going to play maybe 2-3 games and we'll probably be done with 3A teams in the NCHSA playoffs?
Well, first, looking at the 3A section, it's like what I call the bird box method. You're sitting here trying to find somebody of these teams. Any of the teams you would pick, blindfolded, might work. New Hanover, obviously young team and struggling a little bit because of that, but still there's some talent there to where New Hanover could emerge as that team. South Brunswick, Jace McKinney, 1,000 points now for his career, I believe. That's perhaps the best player in the league. Obviously, we'll find out at the end of the season when Player of the Year awards come out. You just don't know yet, and whoever gets that, it will be hard. I don't know enough about the 3A East to see where they could sneak up. One of those teams could sneak up on someone and win. If I had to just throw something out there, I'd say 2nd round might be the max for a team at the 3A level.
Look, I'll say this. I think if West Brunswick gets 2 or 3 games at home, they could win every game that they have at home in the playoffs.
They did beat Laney at home.
They beat Laney at home. They have a terrific home court advantage. I mean, I remember the game after the New Hanover Laney game, where Laney got this, last second win and had to hold on and break a long losing streak. It was a crushing loss for New Hanover, and one of the first things that Coach Angel said to me after the game was, well, now we got to prepare for our toughest road trip of the season, because they were going to Charlotte on Tuesday. So West Brunswick, if they can find a way to get that 1 seed and play 3 games at home, I mean, They might not be the most talented of the 3A East teams, but it's a great home court advantage. Guys like Javion McCray, Jaden Parker, they have excellent size. I could see them making a deep run in the playoffs just based on some fortunate seeding and being the top 3A team from the MEC. But, thank you guys so much for watching. That's all we got today. We're going to have plenty of coverage throughout the basketball season, which I said there's a lot of basketball to be played. And I don't know if that's true. There's a lot of storylines that we need to settle, but there's really not too much basketball left. We're going to find out a lot more about how this conference race is going to shape up after the next couple weeks, especially at that Laney-Hoggard rematch on February 1st. So thank you guys for watching so much. At Star News Varsity on Twitter and Facebook for all your updates, and look forward to seeing how this MEC race shakes up.